Welcome, Wise Chat. It's Monday, August 12th. Wow, it is both already August and already the 12th of August. Producer Henry here saying thank you for joining us. I hear you have a case of the Mondays. Mike will be in to look at that in just a moment. As you're getting into the chair there to be inspected, just like that stream, get real comfy and have a beverage, steal some time off the clock. I got that green tea here with me, and we'll be with you in a moment.
Hey everyone, happy Monday. Happy case of the Mondays. I hope you have a happy case of the Mondays. This is our first Monday here in a bit, so that's exciting. We were not here last Monday, so we did a sort of like Monday, Tuesday case of the Mondays thing. But we're here. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, Mondays are terrible-ish. So we want to get through it together. Misery loves company. I think that's the whole point of hospice care, is that they put all the dying people together in one place, and that there's some comfort that comes through that, I guess. I once had to help someone move a couch into a hospice care center, and it wasn't like a great vibe. I would say it wasn't. I wasn't thinking like this. I want to come back and do this. But shout out to anyone who is watching from hospice, because that'd be pretty fun. Some fun recommendations on stuff to look at. The Dr. Fatima. I'm not sure you said that name correctly. Video people are talking about. I want to check that out. Yeah, I have it pulled up. I think someone might have sent it to us as well. No bear spoilers here. We have a picture from the bear from the character Tina, because I'll tell you guys what we're going to talk about as our main story today. A Twitter thread, which I guess started, someone tweeted some stuff for the weekend, and then some LA-based TV writers started responding to it today. But a thread on the bear and TV and politics, capitalism, and all these sorts of things. We're actually working on a video kind of about this topic right now for our second channel that we're launching. That should be launching by the end of next month. If you really want to be on the front lines of that movement, you could subscribe now to our Wisecast channel. I'll look it up right now and send you guys the link in the chat. But basically, we're going to be converting our former second channel, where we would put our podcasts and streams and stuff like that on. We're converting that into our new channel. I'm going to send you that link right now. Also, today in the chat, if anyone, I'll just post that link a few times, but if you don't already subscribe to the channel, we're going to be converting this into our second channel. So if you subscribe, you'll be on the way. Wow. Ann Parkin's really on fire, currently winning. Jackie, hello in California, from California. Glad that you're here. So what was I just saying? You're going to subscribe to that. We have the second channel coming out, which is relevant because on that second channel, we're going to be talking about TV and movies more explicitly. It's going to be more of like focused on media theory type situation. So basically, it's like a second Wisecrack channel to become what Wisecrack used to be before I ruined it, before I came in.
Are we changing the main channel to Wisecrack?
We're going to change it to Wisecrack, because everything went bad after I came in, and I
got a real Piccolo Kami situation going on here.
Yeah, I forced Jared out. I sent him to live in Finland as a refugee. I single-handedly forced everyone to do exactly what I wanted because I am a monster. And, I'm just telling you right now, that's what I'm like. None of that's true, to be clear. But we're starting that channel up. It's going to launch next month. And also, just very official, guys, Show Me the Meaning is coming back. So if you were a fan of Show Me the Meaning, if you want to hang out with Austin and Raymond and other folks in that universe, you're going to be very excited. So that's coming back out. So be ready for that. Also, if you didn't see Friday's video, we put out a video on political violence. You all, I should have thanked you all in that video, Maybe I'll add a note to the description because the video came out of a conversation that we all had like a month ago after the Trump ear attack. And, we put that video up on Friday and we do a thing, right, where we'll upload a video before it goes public and we let YouTube filter it to basically see, are we in trouble? Are we bad kids? Are we good kids? Is mommy mad at us? All those sorts of things. And before we uploaded it, YouTube was like, Daddy loves you. This video is allowed. And then we put it up, and within an hour, it got flagged for limited monetization, and we got told it was an 18 plus video. I did show whole, so maybe that was why. But kind of annoying because it's a video that we like a lot and is in many ways a relatively careful discussion of political violence that talks about political violence in America post 2016, the longer history of political violence in America. We use the example of America's role in doing a coup in Guatemala because America wanted dem bananas at a cheaper price. We also talk about one of my personal heroes, John Brown. I really want a John Brown tattoo, and I just can't think of the right John Brown tattoo idea. If you are an artist or a creative person and have an idea for a good John Brown tattoo, send it to wisecracklive666@gmail.com, and I'll give you credit for it if I use your idea. I'll just put your initials under the tattoo, I guess. We talk about Frantz Fanon, briefly mentioned Che Guevara, but I think it's a really good video that sort of, the main idea of which is that the recent examples of political violence, and this is relevant to what we talked about last week with what's been going on in the UK, are, of course, acts of political violence, but in some ways, they obfuscate the way in which America, at least as a project, as a economic and political project, is very much grounded in political violence, and how there seems to be a state monopoly of political violence. So the type of political violence that we're told is bad often is the type of political violence that is not monopolized by the state. And of course, we used examples like, Frantz Fanon talking about Algeria and John Brown and the raid on Harper's Ferry to kind of, maybe complicate the notion that all violence that is political has an inherent, unethical character to it. And I did dare people in the comments to say that they think freeing slaves is bad. One person did. Someone named Isaiah said, my name is Isaiah, and I think freeing slaves is bad. And I don't know if they really think that, or if it was more just being a little bit trolly in the chat type thing. Daddy O'Dizzy, libertarianism. We could talk about that at some point. That could be fun. But a reminder, as always, you can email us at wisecracklive666@gmail.com. Another thing I really need, and some of you gave me responses to this on Twitter. Guys, I'm in the market for some new Bluetooth headphones. If anyone has recommendations, I think I might buy a pair that I think someone who maybe is here recommended to me via Twitter. But I'm looking for some over-ear Bluetooth headphones. I want to make a good investment in something I can use for a long time. So if you guys have headphones that you like a lot, please let me know in the chat or shoot us an email at wisecracklive666@gmail.com, and we'll maybe check out some emails later. And then before we really get cooking, just a reminder that, okay, Party Tortoise, that's what I was thinking. So Party Tortoise, that's good to know. Reminder that we have a coffee partner. Our coffee partner is called Yes Please Coffee. Here's a fun fact. Later today, I am having coffee with the founder of Yes Please Coffee. We're meeting up at a neighborhood coffee shop in Los Angeles. Don't try to find us. You will not be able to find us. We will be hidden. Okay, this is great. I really like the headphone recommendations. But yeah, and we're hanging out because we're going to talk about some new stuff that we might do with the stream. Okay, XM4 is good to know. Including a coffee giveaway. So we're working on something like a giveaway where you, once a month or so, Sean Harriman's getting his first shipment. You're going to like it, dude. I really think you will. We're going to be giving you coffee for free. Now, I'm almost out of Yes Please coffee. This is like the sad bag I have left. Not a lot left here. Listen to the beans. See, that sounds good. But Yes Please Coffee is great. The deal with Yes Please Coffee is they're a local company based here in Los Angeles. They're very small. They only sell direct to consumer. They put a lot of care into stuff that they make. They're switching it up every week with different roasts. You get a fun little zine when you order. They have a subscription service as well. Yeah, the espresso beans for cold brew will be rad. But you get 20% off if you order it through us. We do not get paid by them. This is not a paid partnership. This isn't like a thing where they hit us up. I got in touch with them because I think their coffee's good. I want to put more effort into finding brands that make stuff that we all like so we can get discounts on stuff that is good and, you know, have some cool relationships with brands that aren't big brands, that are tiny brands, or not even brands, companies. So Yes Please Coffee, I highly recommend checking it out. They have a really pretty website, very easy to navigate. They got a lot of options there. I do recommend, if you're a regular coffee drinker, to check out their subscription services, because you just get coffee sent to you every month, which is great. And especially if you use the code Wisecrack, you cannot use code Wokecrack no matter what Long and Fork tells you. You know, you get 20% off. And with the code, I honestly think at the end of the day, it ends up being a little bit more than a lot of coffee you get at the grocery store these days. And then a bag of nice coffee, like Yes Please. I don't know exactly how many cups of coffee you get out of it. Let's think. I mean, like double digits of coffee for sure. And a bag of this coffee is maybe the cost of 3 to 4 coffee drinks in America, at least. So there you go. Please do check it out. And also, if there's other companies that you guys think are cool, smaller brands, products, services that you genuinely like, hit me up. I'm trying to get in touch with people because, okay, are you guys ready for overshare? Michael shouldn't say this. He's going to lose his job corner. We'll tuck in because it's happening. It's happening. Okay, guys, remember how I have to use a lower voice as if no one will hear me. Remember how I told you how we had the BetterHelp thing and then we had to like fight to not do BetterHelp anymore? Well, it turned out people that work inside sales at our parent company who are responsible for helping us get sponsors so the channel can stay alive, they're just, I don't know if stonewalling us is the right word, but now their attitude is basically like, oh, Wisecrack didn't want BetterHelp? Well, fuck them. And now they're just not helping us get sponsors and sell ads to make money. So that's cool. That's like a cool thing to do, I think, right? I think that's a cool thing to do. So now I'm having to put some work into getting in touch with brands and sponsors to try to keep the channel alive. But that's a cool thing and all. That's a really cool thing. It's a cool thing to do. It's really professional. I work with some really professional adult humans that are professionals at what they do, and definitely not little baby boys, just little baby boys. Okay, so that's sorry, there was an audio problem right there. So let's talk about today's topic. So I saw a thread on the Twitter this morning, and the reason I saw this is because I saw a TV writer and comedian and writer about TV, Ashley Ray, who's a great follow on Twitter if you're someone that likes overthinking TV. She's one of the best, kind of like, obviously like writes TV shows, but is a really good writer and commenter on TV shows. I like TV a lot, and I appreciate people that take TV seriously. Now, there is a thread, and it's from ACAB, the Arab, which is a fun username. You know, I don't know. I've never interacted with this person before. You know, their username is just your friendly neighborhood Arab comrade. I see that they're followed by some mutuals. Greg Edwards, friend of the show, follows this person. Now, we'll look at their thread, and I want to say at the outset, I think ACAB, the Arab, brings up some interesting points, but personally, I think they go off the rails a little bit, but I think it brings up a lot of really interesting questions about what TV is supposed to do, what type of storytelling works in TV, and what the role of politics is within that. Please like the stream if you haven't already. We'll get into this. I'm curious what everyone thinks, and we'll maybe look at some other stuff later to supplement our conversation here. But this is going to be a classic case of the Mondays where we just kind of chat about one thing that seems kind of interesting. So the top of the thread starts as someone who's loved TV storytelling for a long time. Hey, me too. I've stopped consuming as much over the last few years. Hey, me too. So when I watch TV now, sometimes it feels like with fresh eyes because I'm less under the spell of US propaganda. And it's wild to see how it's baked into everything. I mean, I think that's fair that television has the level of propaganda baked into it. And there's a thing, this is a cliche thing to say. It's not original. I don't think I'm being, smart here. But I just think every conversation about television, the medium, the way it's written, the way it's structured, what shows get produced, we always have to consider this against the backdrop of the fact that television shows exist, not as ends in themselves. TV exists as a mechanism to sell advertising and streaming subscriptions. That is why it exists. The earliest radio and television programs were SpawnCon. They were advertisements, as our friends in the UK might say. And I think it's important to keep that in mind because I think sometimes we might have an idealistic sense of both what TV is for and how TV is made. But we'll get into this. So this person then says, I've been catching up on The Bear. I recently just finished the most recent season of The Bear. Now, we're not going to spoil anything. The episode referenced here is like a bottle episode. I think I used that term wrong. I don't think it's a bottle episode because that's an episode that takes place in one location. It's like a flashbacky episode. So, and it's just one about the character Tina, and it gets into her backstory before she started working at The Beef/The Bear. This person said, I've been catching up on The Bear, and I just watched the Tina episode. And the way we're supposed to accept that, yeah, some people will be on the brink of financial ruin for their entire lives is normal. Like, that's just what life is. It's not even the point of the episode. It's just the subplot, is going to the next tweet, that shows the viewer how she ended up at the bear. This isn't a spoiler, but the episode's basically the character of Tina, very clearly a working class person in Chicago. We see a little bit about her marriage and her family. We see that her and her husband are both kind of just hanging on, trying to keep up with rent. She loses her job, a job she'd had for a bunch of years. We see her applying for other jobs and how hard it is to get a job, especially without a college degree. And eventually, via happenstance, she ends up working at The Beef, now Le Bear, or El Oso, depending on what country the restaurant is in. Now, when I saw that episode, and for those of you who watched, I'm curious what you think. The takeaway I got from it wasn't that the show was telling me it is normal and good that some people will be on the brink of financial ruin for their whole lives. Now, I do think, and cards on the table as well, I don't think The Bear is an incredibly good television show. I think it's wildly overrated, one of the most overrated shows in recent years. I like it, but I think the way it's been talked about is kind of insane. But I don't know. So this person says, and we're meant to empathize with her, but also at no point does the show question the validity of these circumstances. And this is every fucking thing in this country. The BS is baked into everything. So here's like the first question, right? Is it the responsibility of a television show to question the validity of the circumstances in which its characters live? Meow? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if people, especially, leftist progressive people, we could assume this person, because ACAB is in their handle name, that they have a certain politics that many of us probably are down with. I worry sometimes that people's dream of like a progressive or leftist show is where someone turns to the camera and says, see guys, this is all here because of capitalism. Let me explain how economic exploitation works, which will further facilitate your analysis of da-da-da-da. And I guess like Adam McKay kind of did that in The Big Short, but at least he did it with like Margot Robbie in a bathtub and Anthony Bourdain cutting fish. But at this point, what do you think, Henry? I know you're someone that thinks about these sorts of things. Should we expect that our television shows are like questioning or giving moral cues as to the circumstances of its characters?
I don't think it's worth approaching a TV show in this way because of what you stated before about like what TV is as far as like it's made to sell ads. It's the broadcast kind of noise that the pop culture puts out, and I mean, what's popular is what resonates, and so you don't get exactly like novel ideas being the most popular things. TV is more a medium of like mediating and finding mediums and means and averages. I mean, The Bear is just kind of a glossed up, updated kind of, I don't want to say sitcom, but I mean, it's meant as a proxy for like, this is my working class totem that I can like come home to and sit in, and it gets me. So I think it's more about reflecting what people are feeling, and I think in that sense, a lot of people feel very stepped on in that like life in America is eternally shitty, and I don't know, like even you could say depending on how somebody approaches their relation to capital, that might be kind of like uh, Stockholm syndrome. But I think as an effective TV show, it's making people feel felt, even if it's not like providing them a way out of that. Like the TV makes them feel comforted. It's not trying to scold them or educate them.
Yeah.
It's there to be heard. You know.
Yeah. Couple comments here. Tay Cat says this person should probably watch Severance. Christopher Bell says a meta fourth wall break is not inherently a bad thing. No, I agree. I mean,
I
I hate it when I don't like it when Deadpool does it. I think it can be. I would almost say like though, like fourth wall breaking can be used well. It rarely is.
Yeah, you can ignore. Okay, so like the rehearsal, Nathan Fielder, the way that breaks the fourth wall and challenges the concept of like performing for the camera versus how you perform in your real life and what like recording one thing tells you about when you're acting unrecorded. I mean, that's pure meta device exploration, and I think that's something that gets you thinking about TV and television as a medium more so than like The Bear or Andor when it comes to like class consciousness and politics.
Yeah,
Gil
and then
Scott
our buddy.
Heron, the revolution will not be televised. That's not just saying like they don't allow the revolution on TV. It's saying you have to go away from the TV and kind of like participate in the offline world to find the revolution.
Mhm. Our buddy Logan Reed shouts to Logan says they literally did that, and I'm a Virgo. I have not. I have not seen. Oh, Christopher Bell says Deadpool is Godard. That's amazing. Chris, you should make that shirt. That would be sick. A Deadpool is Godard shirt. I legit think a lot of people would do that. I think a lot of people would buy that shirt, and that would be sick. Um, okay, so this person then says, and so everyone just accepts that this is what life is and how it's supposed to be. And I think this is the maybe the crucial thing, the supposed thing. The way I don't necessarily think that the worlds painted in television shows are meant to imply a kind of like moral imperative that this is how the world is supposed to be. Because like for
Yeah.
example, like and I know this is a big leap going from The Bear to the show I'm about to reference, although it is another show that is the four-letter word. But when you watch The Wire, no one's thinking to themselves, oh, this is how the world is supposed to be. And David Simon is implying that this is good and this is how the world's supposed to be. No, in The Wire, David Simon is exploring the way that the world is and doing so in a way that I think, without being didactic, explores the massive injustices and inequities baked into that system.
Yeah.
Um,
It gets
and I
into
think,
like the French New Wave and the whole cinema verite idea where it's like we're trying to report what things are like, not so much what we want them to be.
yeah, but don't bring up New Wave because now Chris is going to talk more about how Deadpool is Godard. Um, but another show, maybe like a comedy that's more relevant to this discussion. But when one watches, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't think anyone assumes that they are like, this is how the world is supposed to be. If anything, they're like, this is what the world looks like when childish sociopaths have their whims facilitated.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, and maybe there's something about the aesthetics of The Bear in particular. And I do think The Bear is a show that kind of like tells the viewer, like, isn't this cool? Isn't this great?
Yeah.
Aren't these people important? So I have empathy with this person's read in so much as I think The Bear is a show that is intentionally trying to there's probably a better word to use here, but manipulate us in that way.
Yeah, so I haven't watched the newest season of The Bear, but I do feel there's a sense of
It's the same shit.
over determination going on in that the supposed to be implies like it's finished and like we've heard the whole essay and know kind of like the overall point of where things are going. And from what I understand, The Bear is like planning to wrap up in a season 4 and for all we know could turn things around. Uh, but even early on, like as you're watching The Bear, like it is hinging itself on realism and on appearing real, but then pulling off some like TV magic sort of plot contrivances. Uh, and I mean, you can just kind of walk away from that recognizing the TV contrivances and understand that you're watching fiction. I don't know if it's necessarily signaling like this is the supposed overdetermined point. If anything, I think
Yeah.
it's highlighting the suffering because in the long run it's going to do something about addressing that issue.
Yeah, I want to shout out Johnny Profit brings this up in the chat, but Skip Intro does have a great video on the bear. So please
Yes.
check that out if you have not already. So let's see. So this person says, and I think what I want most of all for us is to dream bigger and imagine better. Like actually believe it can be better than this bullshit. I mean, part of this too, and this is something that I don't have a determinate take on. I go back and forth on this, but I do think sometimes that there's better mediums than television to help us dream and think about the world differently. I'm not saying that TV and film cannot do that, but I think there is a very low ceiling on how much at least mainstream, corporate media sponsored TV and film can do that. So I think it's a losing game to expect that. And there's some stuff that can be said, we can get to later about non-corporate backed media and people who are using, forms of whether it's narrative style TV stuff or video essays or short films or all types of ways people use visual communication to communicate political ideas. Person goes on to say, I'm not even picking on the bear. I'm broadly talking about US TV and film and the way acceptance of capitalism is baked into all of our media. It just so happens that particular episode sparked the tweet, but there are endless examples. But if you want to take it personally, go ahead. And that was in response to someone else who's an LA TV writer who responded to that. Now, I think this question that US TV and film and the way capitalism is baked into all of our media. Well, in that sense, it's like, yeah, I think that capitalism is baked into, I don't need to sound like an overexcited freshman in college here, but I mean, it's baked into like everything. It's baked into how we make stuff. It's baked into how we think about the world. It's baked into how we're taught how the world works. It's baked into the institutions that create media. It's baked into the mechanisms by which we consume media. It's kind of a hard thing to break from, maybe. Am I not being charitable here? Or?
There's too many cost drivers in the production of television at that scale for it to take risks or challenge the sort of nest it's built upon. I mean, this is also why I personally find film a bit more energetic because there's always something that feels a bit more personal, even in like bigger budgeted movies, just because it's kind of a one and done, or it has an incoherent but final thesis. But like, I mean, this year the People's Joker's been making the rounds, and that's like very
Mhm.
much radical in its distribution and creation and conception of intellectual property. Um, this is something I've always felt since my college years where like there's a degree of like do you want Disney to do all your gay programming for you or do you want to like actually go out
Yeah.
there and support queer independent artists because there's people on the internet doing things that could use a signal boost like you don't have to beg like Marvel to do things for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing too, is like we want, 21st Century Fox or the Disney Corporation, David Zaslav, Reed Hastings, all these people to tell us that to almost like validate our political and social proclivities. But like, why would we want that? I don't know. To go through the rest of this thread, so then this person responds to a tweet from Ashley Ray. Now Ashley Ray's tweet was, "I swear to God, people just like to hear themselves type on here. Does the bear want us to accept that Tina will be in poverty forever?" Well, no. And the person said, "Cool. When are all the LA writers going to start offering alternatives to capitalism in their storytelling? Oh, they're not because they can't, because then they wouldn't have jobs. That's literally the point of this thread. Now, this is where this is where they lose me. So I think, you know, the notion that LA based writers are not offering alternatives to capitalism for storytelling. So in one sense, that's ridiculous, right? I would argue that within a mile radius of my current household, if we looked at every hard drive or Google Drive or whatever on every laptop in a mile radius, we would have potentially 1,000 different screenplays or pilots that have some element of capitalist critique in them. Because a lot of, especially younger writers in Los Angeles, are fairly progressive. We saw this with the strikes we had last year. There's a pretty huge contingent of writers and Hollywood folks that are involved in DSA out here. That's not an endorsement or a critique. It just is what it is. Lots of people are trying to tell stories like that or are interested in telling stories like that. Executives, if you're watching, hit me up. I got some fire for you. I have a really good pilot about climate disaster. It's really uplifting. But so when this person says, "Oh, they're not because they can't, because they wouldn't have jobs," well, a few things here. People are writing stories that they want to tell. People do not have control over what gets made. So if our moral standard here is if you want to be a good anti-capitalist writer, you should only write, Trotskyist TV pilots that will never get made, so you'll never work, so you won't have a job, but that is good. I just don't understand where this logic goes. And also, because they can't, they wouldn't have jobs. That's the point of this thread. So are you saying you would rather anyone who is vaguely progressive only write things that are literally and didactically, socialist or communist or whatever, and then that would only leave the Taylor Sheridans of this world and the Dick Wolfs of this world to only make cop shows and cowboy shows? So I just think. And then the follow tweet to this says, "Y'all want to get offended because you are a part of the U.S. empire's machine, and you wouldn't be if you weren't willing to toe the line." I just don't think that is true or accurate at all. I don't think people that write on TV shows necessarily are part of the empire machine. I don't think people that write films are part of the empire machine. And I think, people have jobs, and I don't think you're going to say that someone who works, I don't know. I just struggle with this logic because it's so black or white.
Yeah, I'm still caught up on the assumption that literally the totality of all media in the US does this when I earlier mentioned the People's Joker, but I'm thinking right now, I saw the TV Glow has been huge and impactful on me this year, and I do see fans and shooters for it online, and that was something that got theatrical distribution, and it is very much about how these systems of entertainment entrap us and suffocate us from being our own selves. So yeah, that overdetermination that it's the totality of the market doing this is just, yeah, I'm a little hung up on that.
Yeah. Oh, I see that Eddie's here. I just want to say congrats to Eddie. I know he recently wrapped up his stint as a professor, is moving on to some new stuff in life. So shouts to Eddie. Give Eddie some love in the chat. Hope you're doing good, bud. But yeah, but I also think too, you're getting at this, Henry. Even in the mainstream, right? People have brought up the show Severance. Not a perfect show, but Severance is a show that uses a type of dystopian hyperbole to point out the ways in which work occupies the core of our self and fractures us at an individual level such that there is an inherent contradiction between our human self and our labor self. I am not saying that everything about the Severance is Vanguard Party stuff, but that is what that show is about. A show that we've talked about on the channel recently, The Boys. The Boys is not a perfect show, but The Boys is a show that is explicitly critiquing the sort of, orgy of the media and the military and Washington and America and the way in which it all kind of comes together. And they criticize both the fascist tendencies and the kind of impotent liberal tendencies of stuff going on in society. That's like a real thing that happens on that show. I mean, I know I actually haven't watched. I'm a Virgo, but I'm a Virgo, but I know that Boots Riley made it, so I trust that it's a show that's like fairly progressive and probably doesn't hold back very much. Even if we're not talking about things that are like exclusively political and having an economic message, I think Atlanta is a show that does something pretty radical, at least in looking at culture and race in America. I mean, there's a lot of shows and a lot of examples of things that do this. Like hell, The Righteous Gemstones, the Danny McBride show on HBO, is a show that's literally looking at the relationship between evangelicalism and capitalism in America, which is pretty important because the
Yeah.
right wing in America is fueled by evangelicalism and capitalism. And this is a show that's getting made by Danny McBride. So there are things that are getting made that I do think, you know, uh, someone brought up Julio Torres' show. I mean, there's stuff out there, and I think a lot of alt comedy stuff has been doing stuff like that for a lot of years. So just this notion that no one's doing that, I think is really weird and unhelpful. I think in general, within reason, I think the criticism that like you can't work in any industry that's unclean, I think is pretty messy because where does that logic end? And then I think the idea that anyone who works in TV is a part of the empire machine is crazy. And it'd be one thing, of course, if this person was criticizing like people that write on cop shows, right? Shouts to Jackson over at Skip
Right.
Intro, who's written about propaganda a lot. But like, yeah, there are shows that get made in America that are literally like cops rip, the military rips, um, strong white dudes that take down brown criminals are the real heroes. Like those shows exist. They absolutely exist. But The Bear is just a really precious show about how damaged people that work in a restaurant are important and special. It's not really doing anything on either side of it. And then, Ashley Ray, professional TV writer and writer about TV, says in this thread, at least this is what's showing up for me. I know sometimes Twitter shows different replies to different people because it's a horrible application with a bad algorithm. It says, oh, you should watch more TV. And then the original poster says, I honestly would love to see something that isn't fantasy based, that is this type of storytelling. If you can recommend it, I will watch. Here's what I kind of hate. I hate when people do this and then they're like, will you tell me what to watch? That type of thing where it's like
They were just making claims that like the totality of all US television does this, and then show obvious like, oh, I haven't seen that one isms.
Yeah, I just think that's kind of like a lazy way to go about doing certain things. But let's see. And someone else said in here, I'll send you what I'm looking at right now, Henry. I'm kind of just bouncing around a little bit. So someone responded to Ashley's tweet and said, everyone enjoys media criticism until you point out the ways their favorite progressive coded show upholds the status quo. Then all of a sudden it's people just like to hear themselves type. This is interesting because I think it's like, poorly reading tweets, but I like this idea, progressive coded show. And I'm going to go on a digression here right now. I will ask permission from the chat to go on a digression. Give me permission by liking the stream if you haven't already. Thank you for your permission. I didn't wait to get it, but So this notion of progressive coded show, here's what I think that means. I think that we've done a thing where progressive means something aesthetic. And when we watch a show, if the people in the show look and dress like people we might have seen at like a Bernie rally, and if the music they use in the background of the show is indie rock music that like baristas like, and if it's shot in a way that indicates this is someone who maybe like went to film school or watches French films or something, I think we make a lot of assumptions about that being progressive. But there's like in The Bear, for example, there is not a single thing in that show in any of the dialogue or any of the characters say that really tell you it has a progressive political message, other than that a lot of the characters look cool. And I think this is a thing like I think about this
I buy it.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I get
Henry.
what you're saying.
Well, so a thing I think about, and this is, guys, I'm old. I'm an old millennial. I still get tripped out if I see a dude who's like tatted up, dresses like a grown up skateboarder or punk rock guy, get into a BMW or a Tesla. That trips me out. And I'll tell you why it trips me out, because when I was growing up, there was like a punk rock skate aesthetic. And there was an inherent assumption that if you dressed or were tatted up or presented in a certain way, you were countercultural. You were not a part of the corporate ecosystem. When I was, growing up, especially in the context of like the Midwest, no one that worked with my dad in his office had like tattoos or skateboarded, right? Um, and then I realized like, oh, a lot of these things that were once coded as countercultural are now just an aesthetic, and you can be a, tech billionaire and, dress like you were a sponsored skateboarder in the early 2000s or something like that. In the same way, I think that a lot of the aesthetics or the fashion that we might associate with, let's say, Occupy era, I'm using this very loosely, like New York hipsters or whatever,
2010s hipsterdom.
yeah. I mean, people, sure, at one point, people dressed in such a way that maybe did signify some countercultural leanings. Now that's how, like, creative directors of massive companies dress. Like, there's just, so I think this initial tweet from Mac Bethel makes that mistake. And then, Ashley Ray responds by saying, I don't even like The Bear. So what's your issue? And this person says it's wrong and makes an assumption about a lot of TV shows, even though the person does not watch a lot of TV shows. And while I do not like The Bear, I'm smart enough to know that the show doesn't intend to be progressive. So this is a bad faith take. So there you go. And I think that like intend to be progressive thing. And this is, and now we don't have to like go to this, but I'm just back on Ashley Ray's main thread now. And I didn't see that she said this. This is basically what I was just saying a second ago. She says, do you guys think a show having actors you like makes it progressive? Because it is about a guy gentrifying a sandwich shop. There's nothing progressive about it. One of my issues with The Bear is that critics jacking it off so much made people think the show is more than it is and better than it is, when it's really not trying to do the things people want a critical darling to do. So again, do you guys think a show having actors you like makes it progressive? I think that's a really good point. And I think we do this sometimes. I think this is the same reason we get so mad sometimes when like people who we like maybe don't have our politics. We get so mad because we want everyone we like and everyone who looks like us to have good politics. I mean, I wonder, this might be something my guy Sean Harriman relates to, but something that I get annoyed by is how many, I'm going to hydrate 1 second. How many people in kind of like the Deadhead world, who like the music of the Grateful Dead are like douchebag finance bros. Like, it annoys me because I'm like, oh, if you listen to this music, which has an inherently rebellious, exploratory, improvisational thing to it, and an aesthetic which is inherently tied to the 60s and 70s counterculture, you can't just be a finance bro, but you can. It annoys me that that's the case. And I remember like a certain period in life not being able to mentally handle that, like, bros I knew who were probably racist loved rap music. And I was like, what are you doing? How do you love a music that's grounded in a community and a sort of urban and political situation that's the opposite of the values you espouse? But people just like shit sometimes, yeah, but so I guess like getting back to the main gist of all this, and again, I'm thinking about this because we're working on a video about this right now for our second channel. Also, if you're just popping in now, this is Wisecrack's Case of the Mondays. Glad that you're here. We're starting a second channel. You can check it out if you want. If you want to get on it early, you can subscribe to our old Wisecast channel. It's going to be changing pretty soon. So, there you go. But yeah, I just think that we have a weird set of expectations around TV and film. And in here, maybe we'll look at this really quickly. There's a current affairs article on this, if we're good to pull that up. And we'll just kind of skim. This is from a year ago, so this isn't like a breaking take. And I'll say this: Current Affairs, a magazine sometimes I like, sometimes I don't. This is not an endorsement of the magazine as such, but the title is "Why Media Conglomerates Are Spoon Feeding Us Anti-Capitalism." And here's the thing, guys. One second. People that run media companies, many of them at least, they might not be good people. They might not have our politics and values. They're not idiots. And because many of them are not idiots, what they're good at doing is the thing we just talked about, which is extracting the aesthetic signifiers of political lifestyles. So they extract the aesthetic signifiers, they put those aesthetic signifiers on media because they know that we will then identify consciously or unconsciously with that media and consume it more fervently. And then they will make, say with me, friends, money. Okay? This article gets into that. It starts with an anecdote about Star Wars. So it says, like so many kids influenced by the 1977 film Star Wars, I once wanted to grow up to be a Jedi. The age-old battle between good and evil, the Force, space laser swords, blah, 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 blah. Next paragraph says, it's no secret that George Lucas loosely based the original trilogy on the American War in Vietnam. In The Return of the Jedi, the Wicked Empire battles against the forest planet moon Endor, whose inhabitants use guerrilla-like tactics. However, it's also true that Lucas's main cast of characters, including Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Princess Leia, aren't exactly the every people of the galaxies. Yada, yada, yada. So it says, Star Wars is always about the miraculously chosen to save and lead the common folk. This person says, imagine my surprise then that Disney's latest addition to the Star Wars universe, Andor, contains no Jedi or magic powers and focuses on a group of relatable everyday people. Fun fact, Andor shares a character with the bear. Not a character, an actor. Over the course of the series, we watch the titular character, Cassian Andor, struggle against the oppressive systematic structures of life under the Empire. I mean, yada, yada, yada. But basically, like, for all of you who have seen Andor, Andor definitely rips. And Andor very explicitly has critiques of Empire. And they even have a character who's, like, writing his own political manifesto about destroying empires. And related to our video that came out Friday, that YouTube made 18 plus. Jesus Christ. It's like, I think, what? This is a me weird thing to say. I think it'd be a good video for like high schoolers and stuff to watch because it gets at some things about America that maybe they don't teach you in history class, but whatever. But no, I'm going to rant for another second. Permission to rant. Great. God gave me permission, and that's
Granted.
all I needed. Fucking Mr. Beast can just make videos where he like locks elderly people in cages with snakes to make enough money to pay off their mortgage. And YouTube is like, yes, more of this, more of this, more of this. And we make a video that's like, hey, we're referencing studies by the Reuters, the American Democracy Institute, quoting some, well-established works of philosophy and political theory to carefully disentangle the way in which political violence has shaped American empire and the way we think about politics. And YouTube's like, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. It makes me think of the thing my daughter does, where she goes, because of the book, the book about the monkeys jumping on the bed, and it says no more monkeys jump on the bed, and my daughter's like that. That's what YouTube does, and it really annoys me. But all that to say, it relates to what you have in Andor. Andor is a show that's basically like, hey guys, maybe revolutionary violence is good sometimes, and the show makes you reckon with that. And what the show does, which is really great, is it necessarily connects a certain type of revolutionary violence to the stuff that happens in the other movies.
Yeah.
Which I think is really great. Now, this writer goes on to say, like, so what interest would Disney have in portraying and criticizing capitalism and state brutality? Quite simply, profit, the one true aim of a capitalist media studio. Disney has jumped to the bit to cannibalize popular sentiments in the name of shareholder interest. Yeah, and this person, they go on to list other shows. Wait, whoa, we got super chat. Thank you so much, Ross. I'll rush you after work, but I just thank you so much, Ross. Whoa, I thought it was said 9, but it's 99. Ross, I owe you a limb. You can pick the limb. If you ever do super chat 99.99,
Boss Peterson.
you pick big boss Ross, BBR, get in here. Wow, Ross. I'm just moment of silence for Ross, not because he's dead, because he's awesome. But in this article in Current Affairs, it goes on and list Succession, The White Lotus, Beef, Glass Onion, Infinity Pool, The Menu, Sorry to Bother You. There's a lot of examples of media that do things that are explicitly criticizing everything from capitalism to colonialism to all types of, gender-based ideologies and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of this stuff, but I think what we have to remember, and later in this article, the author quotes the book The Conquest of Cool by Thomas Frank and says it explains that following the popular radicalism of the 60s, corporations use those ideas to sell t-shirts. Because again, think about the finale of Mad Men. What is the finale of Mad Men about? If you haven't seen the finale of Mad Men, I'm not going to spoil it for you because that show ended like 12 years ago. It can't be spoiled. Good show, though. And with the finale of Mad Men, in which our main character, Don Draper, New York ad man and legendary coxman, is at a spiritual retreat in Ojai, California, and in a moment of spiritual zen and self-realization, he realizes how he can take advantage of California 60s, 70s spiritualism to sell Coca-Cola. And the show fundamentally ends on this note, reminding us that the brilliant minds of Madison Avenue are geniuses at identifying emotive aspects of culture that they can then use to sell us shit. We're talking about the Grateful Dead before, right? People in the 60s and 70s quickly learned that rather than being mad at the hippies, you could just sell the hippies hippie stuff. You could make things crunchy and tie-dye and they'll give you money. In the 90s and especially early 2000s, people learned, let's not be mad at the people that create hip-hop music and culture. Let's sell them shit. Let's have McDonald's ads with like rap songs in them. Let's sell the culture back to the people who we are stealing that culture from. So whether it's an aesthetic thing or a political thing, this is by no means new. And I think that when someone like the person who did that original tweet thread talks about how it's almost like TV writers' fault that there isn't more radical anti-capitalist television or whatever, even the stuff that does get made is still getting made by companies that just are making money off it. So maybe like the final point here would be to say a couple of things that I want Henry to tap in on this as well. But in one sense, we have to remember that it's okay sometimes for us to consume media, whether that be books, plays, movies, TV, music, whatever, that don't have an explicit politic, or at least that don't have an explicit politic that aligns with our politics, right? Just because Ernest Hemingway might not, be in your local chapter of the Party of Socialist Liberation or whatever, doesn't mean he's not a good writer. Who knows what John Cassavetes' theories of economic exploitation are, but guy could make a movie, right? I don't know, what I'm trying to think of, the Donald Fagen from Steely Dan. I don't know what Steely Dan's politics are, although they're probably good. But fellas could write some songs, So in one sense, we got to disconnect sometimes. The other thing I would say is, hell yeah, Eddie. Eddie is like my parenting spiritual guru. Other thing to remember is people are making stuff. I'm going to give an example, and this isn't the most organic indie thing or whatever, but I really like the comedy of Connor O'Malley. The New York Times wrote a piece on Connor O'Malley this weekend. Connor O'Malley puts all of his stuff on YouTube. Much of it, I think, is very much exploring and criticizing the psychology of a certain type of angry right wing American male. And I think there's a lot of political value in that. And you can just watch all of his stuff on YouTube. There's tons of people that make very cool work that they put on places like YouTube or TikTok. And again, these are all like corporately owned platforms. But people are making stuff. You kind of just have to find it. Henry, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, not understanding, like, again, the cost driver factor of what affects what gets on TV will drive you crazy as far as expecting TV to solve everything. Um, this year, I've been getting back into print comics. I used to be pretty big into them a few years back, and it's just very refreshing seeing what's going on in comics compared to like comics film adaptations or comics in TV and television. James, I think it's Tinian's. I've been reading Something is Killing the Children, which won a GLAAD award and some Eisner awards and stuff like that. But it's reminding me that, like, even in corporate comics, like what's going on in Krakoa era X-Men as compared to what goes on in MCU movies, like, because comics are cheaper and less kind of like looked at in the way that movies get like executive meddled to death. Um, they're more creative and just kind of like riffing a bit faster and looser because less people are kind of like keeping their eye on the page and kind of like policing that in the same way Disney polices, their film properties that got to be four quadrant successes for families. And I mean, you just got to kind of understand how American media works and like how at some levels things are going to be super mediated and guarded, and that other levels you have, you know, your trans friends drawing crazy cool comics and doing all kinds of independent publishing. You just gotta get away from like you gotta be more conscious of media, and that doesn't mean being more critical of the stuff you watch. It's just understanding better how that stuff gets in front of your face.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Um, yeah, I posted this a few times. So posting a link right now to that's Connor O'Malley's most recent video, Corey's, which is like it's like a David Cronenberg inspired exploration of like jealousy, envy, and suburban malaise under capitalism. Now I'm posting a link to Connor O'Malley's recent stand-up special called Stand Up Solutions, which is about AI. It's basically him in a certain character arguing for an AI system that can take over comedy and make it for us. Um, it's subtle, but it's doing something interesting. Julio Cesar, thank you so much. Criticizing capitalistic YouTube, but super chats, let's go. Ryan, it's okay that you farted. But yeah, so and I think maybe like if folks have other stuff they want to share, but yeah, just important like, and at the end of the day too, you know, to get Henry's reference, Gil Scott Heron's the revolution will not be televised again. At its best, TV and film, and again, I use this quote way too much, guys. I'm so sorry that I use this quote way too much. Roger Ebert called films machines for the making of empathy. I think that film and television at their best can create the conditions for us to expand our own empathy and to consider perspectives that aren't our own. And I think that's really, really important. But I do not think that the production of empathy that comes through mediums like film and television is going to like do politics for us or change the world. I do think, however, it's almost like I'm going to use a gardening metaphor. I don't know how to garden, but I feel like if things like media make us more empathetic people, that's tilling the soil, right? It's creating better conditions in our spiritual soil. And maybe if the conditions of our soil are better, if political or social seeds are planted, they will take root and they will grow into stronger plants. If you are a gardener, you can let me know why I got that wrong. But I think that's the important thing there. And at the end of the day, if what you want are concrete analyses of society and politics, then watch video essays, watch documentary films, read books, listen to long form audio pieces and podcasts on these things. There's a bunch of media that just wants to do that for you, you know? But I think it's also okay because I don't know if you guys know this. This is breaking news. The world kind of sucks sometimes. Sometimes we watch TV or listen to music or watch movies because we don't want to be hit over the head with the alienating conditions in which we live. Sometimes we want to live in another place, another time, another world. We want to abstract from the immediacy of our lives. And we want to think about what it's like to be someone else or somewhere else. And that's fun, you know? Maybe we want to imagine for a second we're just with our friends in a bar in Philadelphia doing casual sociopathy. You know, maybe we want to imagine that we are a part of a zany group of teachers at an elementary school, also in Philadelphia. I don't know why I'm stuck in Philadelphia with this one, you know? Um, Maybe, I don't know, what's another show that's good? You know, maybe we want to imagine that we live in a world where there's dragons and we fuck people that are related to us. I don't know.
I
Maybe
mean,
that's maybe that's what you're into. I don't
yeah.
know.
Abbott Elementary's
Yeah.
going. That seems to be a nice salve of like happiness and optimism, as far as like, hey, just turn your mind off and have faith in the public education system for a few minutes.
hmm But like, you're allowed to feel okay sometimes. You're allowed to. Just because the world sucks doesn't mean you always have to feel bad. So I don't know. But that's, you know, that's our stream inspired by some tweets we saw. You know, we've been getting really into like more explicit politics and elections and assassination attempts and all this crazy stuff that was happening recently. So I just figured, why not jump into things? Um, why not just jump into some more slightly fun stuff? So there you go. We are going to be back on Wednesday, but in the meantime, I want to give a final shout out to our coffee partner, Yes Please Coffee. The reason this bag isn't full is because I'm drinking all the Yes Please coffee. It's really good. Hopefully, we'll have some fun announcements soon for some partnership stuff with them involving some giveaways. Reminder, we have an email at wisecracklive666@gmail.com. We got some great emails recently. And some from last week, including some of our very good show friends that we haven't gotten to yet. So I want to make sure we have time for that Wednesday. But hit us up at wisecracklive666@gmail.com. Let us know about the media that you're enjoying. Let me know if you have headphone recommendations. I need some new headphones. I really need your recommendations. Let us know other stuff you want. Papa Sango says King Gizzard dropped a new album over the weekend. It's really good. The new King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard album is really fun. I think a lot of you would like it. I do. I really feel confident about that. So check that out. Of course, coffee propaganda. We are selling you on the dream of capitalist coffee. We have a Patreon as well. So check out our Patreon if you have some money to spend. We have some stuff there. We're behind on all of our Patreon extras, but producer Olivia yelled at everyone last week. So we have a bunch of new stuff coming up. Thank you again, Julio. Sean recommends a new Jack White album. Oh, I forgot that existed. We'll check that out as well. And just as an old album recommendation, I was listening to Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life yesterday with my daughter. Guys, that's a good album. John, I want over-ear Bluetooth headphones. But yeah, if you've never, I know you all like have heard Stevie Wonder. If you've never just sat down and listened to the entire record of Songs in the Key of Life, do yourself a favor. It's amazing, and you'll be shocked that all of this was made. I think in what, the early '70s, like early '70s. I think it's fantastic. Okay. Oh yeah, Joe Pera. I always want to be in the world of Joe Pera talks with you. Okay, guys, we'll see you on Wednesday. If you have stuff you want us to talk about on Wednesday, you can hit us up on all the things. Leave comments if you're watching the stream after the fact. We always look at those. Shout out to all of you in the chat. New Sturgill as well, Long Pork. Forgot about that. New Sturgill's
Oh,
really, really,
damn.
really good. New Sturgill's really good. And also, if you're a Sturgill person, look up the clips online. He played his first show in 3 years over the weekend, and it was nuts. It was, all the clips are so friggin' good. So check that out. We'll see you on Wednesday. One love.
See y'all Wednesday.